YouTuber famed for begging for subscribers about to complain about subscriptions? Yes, I am. Hi, I'm Ash Dixon here at GINX. I'm a hypocrite, but that doesn't make me wrong because I'm sick and tired of everything now being a subscription, especially in the world of gaming. In fact, I thought it was time to prove just how bad it's gone. Now, I've had this video idea for a while because for me, we reached the point of no return once Call of Duty came to Game Pass. Think about it. Even just like 3 years ago, no one in their right mind would predict that Call of Duty would ever give up that sweet $70 purchase from tens of millions of gamers every year. Obviously, the Microsoft acquisition hadn't happened yet, and the move is rather indicative of just how desperate Microsoft are to claw people back to Xbox. Not that that's working. But even still, COD on Game Pass marks a monumental shift, because if the guaranteed annual money printing machine that is Call of Duty isn't safe from subscriptions, what is? Like, literally the only thing I can think of is maybe GTA 6. Oh, and Nintendo, because their business practices are somehow stuck in some kind of 10-year time lag. Literally, while everyone else is filling their games with microtransactions, Nintendo's out here releasing an alarm clock. Either way, the era of subscriptions is here, and it's gonna take over. And it's happening despite a bunch of gamers being the most stubborn bastards imaginable, out there desperately clinging to the discs like Game Freak and graphics from 2006. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here. You hate it too. But if this is our fate, well, I think it's time we actually did some investigating, added up some numbers, and worked out just how much all of this is gonna cost. Spoiler for the end of the video, it's a lot. Now, before I unveil every single subscription available to gamers, and trust me, there's a ton, I think it's important to quickly address how the hell did we get here? Because subscriptions are currently a plague across every industry, and it's not like subscriptions are anything new. For over a century, we've been subscribing to magazines, maybe a Playboy, so you can take a peek at some sweet ankle. Wow, maybe subscriptions haven't changed at all. Or maybe you can go back to the OG subscription. Milk, the good old milkman. Here in the UK, people couldn't even buy milk in shops until like the 90s. Instead, your dad would pay a subscription to get your milk delivered by a man who looked suspiciously like you. And fast forward to a decade ago, there was a brief period where subscriptions actually kind of felt like a great deal. Back when Netflix was initially taking off, it felt like insane value for money. $8 a month for a huge library of movies and TV shows from all sorts of channels and studios, and then they started making original stuff too? And you've got to remember, this was in the era where a single Blu-ray would cost like $25. You're telling me I can get unlimited movies a month for a third of that? That's crazy talk. Of course, all of us were there naively watching the Stranger Things kids play D&D, all while the entertainment industry was secretly rolling a Nat 20 interception. Because all of that money that used to be spent on expensive TV packages or cinema tickets, well, it was all now being funneled into a streaming service. And suddenly, all of those traditional media companies were watching from the sidelines, plotting how to get their money back. How did they do it? Well, if you can't beat them, join them, and they all just pulled a bender going, well, I'll start my own streaming service with Jack Black and hookers. And so they all started popping up. Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Apple TV Plus. Basically, take a media company and add the word plus.
Hey Ash, what's your Patreon called?
Shut up, George, shut up! And that created a problem because people weren't going to subscribe to Disney Plus if they could get Disney content everywhere else. Suddenly, to watch all of the content you used to watch before, you didn't just need one subscription, you needed 3 or 4 or 5. And it gets worse. These platforms were desperate to get people on board, so they lured us in with these lucrative deals and low starting prices, all with the intention of jacking those prices up years down the line. Now, there is a term for this. You've probably heard of it. Enshittification. It has the word shit in it, which is very satisfying. But it's by design, because look at this graph. Over time, all of these platforms have got more expensive, while also getting progressively more shit. And if I had a third axis to play with, we could label it ads, which are also increasing on the very platforms which were meant to end them. Does this boundless greed create resentment and apathy among your customer base who may be eyeing up a life on the high seas? Potentially. And for legal reasons, I'm obviously talking about people checking out the world's first quadruple A game available on Ubisoft Plus, £14.99. And oh look, another plus! Well, it seems like a great time to start our experiment. In the past, if I was someone who really hated FOMO and had to have all of the latest games, well, I could just pop down to the shops and literally buy every single one. Yeah, that was expensive, but it was possible. Nowadays, everything is locked behind different paywalls and subscriptions whose libraries are constantly shifting and changing. So here is the plan. I'm going to see how much of a complete gaming experience I can get purely through subscriptions. How many games and platforms can I get access to, and more importantly, how much will it cost? Now, as I'm in the UK, for ease, I'll be sticking to what's available here and we'll be adding up the price in pounds. Obviously, I could use a VPN and sign up for anything, which leads me to today's sponsor. Now, I'm joking, look at those subscriber numbers. But anyway, we'll add in the conversion so you can have a rough estimate in other currencies too. Right, all make sense? Well, buckle in. Now, basically all subscription services come in different tiers, and as a rule of thumb, we're basically always going to be going for the most expensive one available. That isn't to pump the numbers, but because thanks to our old friend enshittification, the cheaper tiers might have been good in the past, but here in 2025, they've all since been stripped of any real value. So for example, let's start with Game Pass. I now need the ultimate tier to play all of the first-party exclusives on day one, and I ain't passing up on the opportunity to navigate menu after menu on Starfield. Such a privilege will cost me £14.99 a month. Next is PlayStation Plus. Now, obviously, Sony is still very much trying to sell things at a box price, even when it literally makes no sense. But they, of course, still have a watered-down subscription service with a limited game library, and either way, you're basically forced to sign up if you want to play online. So let's add on £13.49. Nintendo Switch Online is next, and thank God it's substantially cheaper. They can get away with it by selling 12-year-old DS games for $60. We're getting the expansion pack version here, obviously, because that comes with loads of retro games, and I feel like tearing up my palms in Mario Party. Now, you can only buy this as a one-year package, but monthly it works out at about £2.92. Then we have Ubisoft, and yeah, they've been struggling a bit lately, but if you want to survive, you have to be defiant. X-Defiant, which can't be found on Ubisoft Plus, £14.99. That leads us to
EA Play.
And while the base tier does come with Game Pass, which we already have, perhaps I like the same old recycled sports games every year. And for that, we need EA Play Pro, £16.99. Do you guys not have phones? Because mobile games exist too. And that's why we've got Google Play Pass for £4.99 and Apple Arcade for £6.99. But the gaming subscriptions don't stop there. Let's talk about cloud gaming. Now, you've got two real options here, NVIDIA GeForce Now, with the best rig being £19.99. We're elite gamers here, so max settings or nothing. Or there's Amazon Luna for $8.99. Now, technically, you only need one for some cloud gaming, but it's here that we hit an issue, which I like to call subception, a subscription within a subscription. You see, Amazon has a Jackbox game subscription costing £3.99, giving you access to over 50 party games, which you'll ignore to play more Quiplash. The problem is, you can only get it if you have an Amazon Luna subscription, and I'm not passing up on the opportunity of disappointing my family with my vile humor every Christmas, so we're taking both cloud streaming services. Speaking of streaming services, those guys are getting into gaming too. Netflix now has a bunch of exclusive mobile games, and that means we also need a Netflix sub. £12.99 for a bunch of games that I don't think anyone plays. Oh, and then there's Prime Gaming too, which gives us access to some more games every month, so that's another £8.99. Man, it's really starting to feel like there's too many subscription services. But oh god, what's that? There's an elephant in the room. Some of these games have subscriptions of their own. You can largely thank MMOs for this. World of Warcraft's been rocking a monthly sub for over 20 years now. And if you're like my dad, you played it for 6 months on release, forgot about the sub, and then let that bad boy roll for the next decade.
I am never gonna financially recover from this.
Now, it would be silly to add every MMO subscription to our list, but I don't think we can ignore them either. So as a compromise, I think realistically most people only play one MMO at a time. So we'll throw in a £9.99 sub for one single MMO. But Ash, it's not just MMOs with subscriptions. Yes, I hear you loud and clear. I personally refuse to speak to anyone unless they're members of the Fortnite crew. So let's chuck in one more sub, £9.99. Done. That's games out of the way, right? Wrong. Battle passes. The gaming industry's genius move to marry up two things that everyone hates: microtransactions and subscriptions. Again, every game under the sun has a battle pass these days. Some of them even have premium battle passes that you can pay extra for. Now, I wish I could say, well, they just add cosmetics, so let's ignore them. Sadly, many gaming companies are greedy and look actual gameplay content behind them, like how Heroes used to be in the Overwatch 2 Battle Pass. And if we want the ultimate subscription gaming experience, I think it's safe to assume that we'll be wanting full access to at least 2 live service games. So getting both of their battle passes, well, together, that averages out at about £6.52 a month. And it's here that I can pause and gaze upon my vast kingdom of content, bask upon my extensive library of games, hundreds if not thousands of games. It's just a shame I can't play any of them. Yet, huge problem, I can't buy anything, so I can't buy any consoles. And it's not like I could subscribe for console access. Oh wait, yes I can. Thanks to this website, I can rent an Xbox Series X, a PS5, and a Switch for a grand total of £64 a month. I've also got that MMO sub, so I do need a gaming PC too. Thankfully, I can subscribe to one of those too, £103 a month for a rig with a 4070. Now, do I need a mouse and keyboard? Yes I do. Sadly, those subscriptions don't exist yet. But if Logitech has their way, that may soon change. Now, I did find some gaming laptops for hire. The issue is I could only find one website and all of its laptops were like 9 years old. So while it would fix our screen, keyboard, and monitor problem, I really can't justify spending a load of money for a 1070 and 8GB of RAM. Luckily, I can still get a screen through the form of renting a TV. This 42-inch 4K 120Hz bad boy will cost us £53 a month. We also need an internet connection so that we can actually access and download our vast library of games. That's £19.99 for some reasonably fast fiber optic. And as we all know, you're not a real gamer unless you have a nice gaming chair. And of course, we can rent one of those too for £20 a month. But we're not done. One last thing. We've also got mobile games to play, so we need a phone. I reckon an iPhone 16 128GB plus unlimited data will serve us nicely. It's the most recent model, but it's one of the cheaper versions, so you know, that's a nice sensible middle ground. That comes to £36 a month. And that is everything. But how much does it all cost? Whew, strap yourselves in. The total cost comes to £452 a month, or £5,433 in a year. That's a pretty meaty number, if I do say so myself. Now, there may be a few people thinking, sure, that's a lot of money, but you'd probably be paying more 20 years ago buying every single game individually. And maybe that's true, but important distinction, at least you actually own that stuff. We should all remember that on top of paying the big bucks every month, which will likely just become more and more expensive, technically at any point those games can disappear from those subscriptions and there's nothing you can do about it. Plus, that £482 a month still doesn't get you everything. You're gonna feel real dumb when GTA 6 finally drops. Still, I think this marks what the future of gaming is going to look like and how much it's all gonna cost. I know people are gonna have all sorts of opinions on my methodology for this video, so I'm keen to hear your thoughts, how you would do it down below. Also, I've got to say, through researching this video, I discovered some absolutely unhinged non-gaming subscriptions, and it's got me thinking, could you live a pure subscription-based life? Entertainment, food, health, travel, and how much would that cost? I think that video might be my next little project. Thanks so much for watching, and to end things with a nice little dose of irony, please consider checking out our Patreon GINX Plus so I can keep making videos like this. Oh, and of course, subscribe.